What's going on, everyone? It's Marco Hannon, and I know I'm extremely late in the full review of the Nexus 6, so take this as a full review after 3 months of using this phone as a daily driver. You guys should know, since I've made that video here at Phone Dog's YouTube channel back in mid-November where I got this phone, unboxed it, and basically ever since that day, which I believe was November 19th, I've used this phone as a daily driver all throughout November, throughout December, into January at CES, and up until now, I'm still using this phone as my sole daily driver. So to kick off this review, we have to kind of dive into the design of the Nexus 6, and there's really not too much here to talk about. It's a Nexus 6 built on of the Moto X over 2014. It's extremely rugged, it's rigid, it's super well built. It's a pretty large phone at 5.96 inches as a display. It's a little over 6.2 inches tall in terms of full length here. So it is a large device. It is curved like the Moto X, so it fits rather nicely in your hand. It's well weighted. I actually kind of think it's a little more top heavy than normal. So if you kind of hold it on the bottom, there's a more likelihood of your phone falling out of your hand. But other than that, it's an extremely normal design that was kind of copied off from the Motorola Moto X that was released a couple months back in September, and there's really not too much to talk about. You could buy this phone in the midnight blue, which is this color right here, or you could buy it in the white and silver. Personally, I do prefer the white and silver just because it has a little bit different texture, and it doesn't show nearly as many fingerprints as this phone does. Next thing we have to take a look at here is the hardware packed inside the brand new Google Nexus 6, and this thing is state-of-the-art. Since of 2014 is basically the best specs that was available back in November. It is basically the Snapdragon 805 chip clocked in at 2.7 gigahertz. It's 3 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes of built-in memory. We have a 13 megapixel camera with OIS. We're just talking about really good hardware, and you really couldn't ask for better specs because this was really the best that was available back in November. You have to think about mass producing this phone, so really back in September when they started making these phones in a mass production state. And the biggest feature of the Google Nexus 6 is obviously the software that it's running. So obviously the Google Nexus 6 is running Android 5.0 Lollipop, and basically it's the best version of Android that was available. I've probably said that about a million times here on this YouTube channel, and I'm still going to say it again. It's the best version of Android, but it's not saying that it didn't have its faults. Especially right around the day of launch here, we had tons, and I'm serious, tons of bugs. It was really buggy throughout the whole operating system. Tons of applications weren't working properly. Tons of Google services weren't working properly. It was just not the smoothest Google rollout in terms of Lollipop. And it almost kind of feels like everything this year was kind of rushed. It didn't work very well on the Nexus 9. It didn't work very well on the Nexus 6. And it definitely didn't work well on other OEM devices like the Moto G and the Moto X. So there's definitely a lot of faults that first started out with the Android 5.0 Lollipop update, and so far a lot of it have been worked out. There's still some things that don't work the right way right now. It's just a few couple applications that Google has built. Also, a lot of third-party application developers haven't really optimized for the new operating system, so they still don't run 100% smoothly, but the overall software itself is pretty darn good. It's still the best looking version of Android I've seen. I actually said it's the best looking version of mobile software ever so far. It just looks really good. It interacts very well. I love the new notification system. I dig all the UI interfaces and the color schemes that Google Android Lollipop gives you, and I definitely do like the Lollipop game and the software. That's definitely a plus, and so far my top score has been 3. But apart from those little minor issues, so far it's been a very good experience. I've definitely enjoyed using 5.0 Lollipop. I definitely don't like going back to KitKat devices like, say, the OnePlus One or the Galaxy Note 4 or anything that's not running 5.0 Lollipop right now, and also anything that's not running 5.0 Lollipop in a stock pure form. So really the only devices I could probably go back to right now is the Moto X, Moto G, and maybe the OnePlus One because I'm still a big fan of CyanogenMod. Now with great hardware, you'd think it'd have an amazing battery life, and here is my biggest and chief issue with the brand new Motorola Nexus 6. I need to stop saying brand new because technically it's not new. But anyway, the Nexus 6 is packed in with a 3,220 milliamp hour battery, the same size as, say, the Galaxy Note 4. And it has a 5.96-inch Quad-HD display. The Galaxy Note 4 has a 5.7-inch Quad-HD display. Basically the same display technology LG Super AMOLED and AMOLED displays here, and the battery life has been terrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. The best battery life I've seen was probably just under 3 or 4 hours of on-screen time. I've actually even gotten it so bad where I've had my phone completely die on me for around 2 hours and 40 minutes of on-screen time. That was actually at CES, interestingly enough. So I really had my phone kind of die right in the middle of my work day at CES. If you know anything about CES, it's an extremely hectic place, and you'd always want your phone to work because you get notifications. And basically, I just had a useless phone in my pocket, a useless watch because obviously my phone wasn't working anymore, and it was just not a very good day. So my real question is, why do we have such a big battery and a stock form of Android with such terrible battery life? It honestly does not make any sense. So kind of getting to the conclusion of the Nexus 6 review here, we're looking at, is it really worth it? $649 off contract. You can buy it subsidized on contracts with AT&T Next or T-Mobile or Sprint, and actually, I think there's going to be a Verizon model coming very soon. There's been some rumors about that. So, is it worth it? Is it worth it to be a flagship device? Does it really earn your hard-earned money here? My answer is absolutely not, because one, it's super expensive. It costs the same as all your other flagship devices, and even though the hardware sounds amazing on paper and you get Android 5.0 Lollipop, it just doesn't stack up in terms of endurance. Something like, say, the HTC One M8 gets even better battery life, and I still love that phone. You could buy the OnePlus One for half the price off contract, and it gets great specs. You can buy the Galaxy Note 4 for great display with basically the same hardware, and it gets you easily 5 hours of on-screen time. Now, yes, you have to live with TouchWiz, but that's missing the point here. So on paper, the Nexus 6 should be one of the best smartphones available, but it's just not true. Honestly, I think one of the best Motorola phones currently available is the Droid Turbo for Verizon Wireless because it has a Quad-HD display, has a larger battery at 3,900 milliamp hours, and yes, it may be running Android KitKat, but it's amazing and it's great. It's only the only unfortunate thing with the Droid Turbo is it's only available on Verizon Wireless. So this review is kind of a mini rant, but also I really do appreciate how good of a phone the Nexus 6 is. I just wish it had better battery life. That's the biggest nail in the coffin for it, because great specs, great display, great software, just terrible battery life, and I really don't know why. I hope some miracle software update comes and brings it 7 hours of on-screen time, then it would be the best phone on the planet, but right now it doesn't do that, and it's just not my favorite phone. So make sure to leave me some comments below. I'm sure you guys do not like what I'm saying about this phone. It's supposed to be the best phone of 2014, but again, I'm just saying it's not. I'm sorry, I wish it would be, but it just isn't. So again, make sure to leave those comments below in the comments section. I might be replying to a few of them if you strike up some really good conversations. Also follow me on Twitter at phonedog_Marco. And as always, my name is Marco Hanna from phonedog.com, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.